This is a submission from zeroniner. Who? What? You're not building a racing quad? I don't even. Is that even possible? You're building a 550 aerial photography, or sorry, INAV. Yeah, aerial photography, INAV, smooth, stable tune. I don't. That's the end of this video. No, I'm kidding. So let me just say, in general, you're going to want lower P gains and higher I gains. You're not going to want ultra, you don't want it sloppy, but you don't want ultra high P gains that are going to result in oscillation, and higher I gains may result in a more sort of, well, a stiffer flight field. But for aerial photography, that stiffness may help smooth out little jitters. It could be. I honestly, I don't have experience tuning an aerial photography rig, but that's what I would do if I were going to try to tune one. So if we look at you're using Lux Float 1.4, so it looks like you're just at defaults here. Let's take a look at your traces and see what we can make of them. We'll start as we usually do with the gyros. So you have more oscillation or more vibration noise. These are thicker lines than we normally expect to see. Now, granted, you're at full throttle there. They settle down nicely once you go to zero throttle. You're punching the throttle some. Now, that's probably because you have a larger copter with larger props. Therefore, you have lower KV motors. Therefore, your props are making lower frequency noise. Therefore, more noise is getting past the cutoff of the low frequency filter, the low pass filter in Betaflight. So I wouldn't consider this to be a problem. Frankly, even if this were an acro quad, I wouldn't call these definitively bad lines, although they are maybe 2 or 3 times thicker than we normally see in the best case. But frankly, these look, my yaw gyro sometimes looks worse than this, and I'm running 5-inch props so on a racer. So there's no reason that this is definitively bad, and the fact that you're running large props on lower KV motors, that explains it. Okay, so nothing wrong here. Let's take a look at your PIDs now and see what we can see. And what you're asking is, you say, I'm seeing really short and messy and not nice clean lines. Well, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of these videos, but they're very seldom nice clean lines. Like, if they're too clean, I would say that your P gains aren't high enough, your copter's not responsive enough. So, I wouldn't worry too much. Especially because if we look at your stick movements are very gentle. Right? Higher throttle. So I would say let's go back to the question of how does it fly. See, when you're building a racer or an acro quad, I think you were trying to get it just to the edge of performance. You're really trying to push it to the edge. And it feels to me like when you're building an aerial photography platform designed for GPS-assisted flight, as long as you're going for stability and smoothness rather than like the edge of performance. So the fact that these lines are relatively sedate doesn't bother me off the bat. Frankly, we might not want the P term shoving the copter around. So I would probably have to go and say, let's look at the photography that's being produced. Is the copter wobbling in a way that we don't want? Is the copter flying smoothly and turning smoothly? Is it dealing with wind buffeting, for example? And I would say I would have to go back to the beginning and look for deficiencies in the copter's flight performance and then think about how to tune them out. And I've done that so many times and for so long with racing copters that I can just guess what a pilot is going to want and just look at the black box and spit out any advice. But because you're doing something here that I'm not very familiar with, I can say that like here we see very, very sedate P and D term. So I feel like that's probably a good thing. Now these little short wiggles and jiggles here, that's just noise, high frequency noise from the props getting into your gyro. If you really want to deal with that, you can change the, what's the parameter? Hold on. Okay, I found it. You can change the gyro LPF or gyro soft LPF parameters. Now that's something to think about. You could certainly add some gyro filtering here, and that would smooth those lines out. Okay, so for example, gyro soft LPF is already pretty low. I might not want to tweak that too much, but maybe you could change gyro LPF to 188. Okay, that would add some filtering. But here's the thing. If your flight performance is good, then don't worry about the fact that these lines are not quite 100% perfectly smooth, because the flight performance is what really matters. And I would worry that, you know, even though you're not some ball-ripping, haha, acro pilot, that there are effects for changing these. You change this soft filter, you add 188 here, and then suddenly now you have, if you change gyro LPF from off to 188, the gyro is going to run at 1 kilohertz. You can't have 2 kilohertz or 8 kilohertz or whatever it is that you might want to do. And that may affect your copter's ability to deal with maybe wind buffeting and stay smooth and so on. So I would not go out of my way to try and tune this stuff. What I would do if I were tuning a camera platform is I would tune it with somewhat less aggressive P gains. In other words, I wouldn't want to see any prop wash oscillation, but I still want the P terms sharp enough that the copter handles well, right? And I might tune it with slightly higher I gains to give it more of just a really definitely locked feel, a definitely stiff feel, as opposed to there's no unwanted pitching or rolling. But then again, if I had a camera on a gimbal, I might not care about that so much. You know, we see the DJI copters, and they produce really, really smooth video, even though if you look at it from the outside, the copter is really just wobbling around a lot. So maybe that's not such a big deal. I don't think anything really is jumping out about your tune that is screaming problem. If anything, the copter looks undertuned. If anything, it looks undertuned, but for a camera platform, maybe that's a good thing. That's what I have to say. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful. Sorry I don't have more to say because I don't fly camera platforms and don't have a lot of experience tuning them. Frankly, most CleanFlight users don't. Most people who are building aerial photography platforms aren't using CleanFlight, so you're a lucky pioneer, and unfortunately that means that I don't have as much advice for you as I might otherwise. But either way, thanks for submitting your video, your Blackbox log, and happy flying.